Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much. That was actually the chair, not me. Let me just move this chair right here. Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel, to my super chat. Your support is so greatly appreciated. I cannot do these live streams without you. I was just moving the chair. I wasn't busting an Eric Swalwell. But thank you so very, very much. Ladies and gentlemen, there are going to be more indictments very soon in the Durham probe special counsel. Kash Patel has predicted that. John Ratcliffe has predicted that. I am predicting that. And hit subscribe to my super chat. Thank you. If you get logged off, definitely log back on. Sometimes that happens. This is a special counsel, ladies and gentlemen. Just like the Mueller probe. Okay? The Department of Justice cannot stop this special counsel. Biden, Merrick Garland, nobody can stop this special counsel. And we are seeing right now that pretty much everything that could go wrong in foreign policy, everything that could possibly go wrong in terms of economic policy is taking place. Thank you so very much, Oliver. Thanks, everybody. Mark, Mikey, everybody here, thank you so much. Cy, Doomerson, Sarah, hello. David, hello. Eric and Luke, thank you so much. Eric and Luke, I have to email you something important pertaining to the moderators, so we'll just, I will email you some information, but I'll go ahead and email both of you. And I can't thank you. I thank you so much for all your work for so long. You're both amazing. Eric and Luke, I will be emailing you. And Luke, Eric, you are just absolutely both amazing. Like I said, to my super chat, thank you. Let's get started. Ratcliffe expects more indictments in Russiagate probe. Now, this was an article written about a couple weeks ago. However, it's very relevant because you have to take things into account, not just the fact that the special counsel indicted 3 people already, but you have to take into account what's going on. So before we get to the attorneys, more attorneys from that law firm being indicted, more people in addition to Kleinsmith within the Bureau, more people, and perhaps also within the Justice Department, everyone who spread the fabricated dossier, which was purchased by the Clinton campaign and the DNC. So these are DOJ indictments. You can read the indictments at the Department of Justice for Sussman, Danchenko, and for Kleinsmith. I'm not making anything up. It's a special counsel. You could read the special counsel. It's broad mission statement from the Department of Justice, and there are articles out there. There's one article in Lawfare, How Do You Solve a Problem Like John Durham, that talks about it could eventually investigate the Mueller team. Anyone linked to what's going on right now, because Biden didn't simply coincidentally force out a prosecutor. If Ukraine is a sovereign nation, which it is, and it is horrible what Putin is doing and Russia is doing, but they're doing it on Biden, while Biden is president, and they're invading a sovereign country. Well, if it's a sovereign country, which it is, why did Biden force out a prosecutor? He should never have been the point person on Ukraine. And that relates directly to the first impeachment, in which they impeached Trump, even though President Zelensky stated that Trump never pressured or leveraged anything, like never placed any pressure on anyone in the Ukrainian government to investigate Biden. They managed to indict Trump without any direct evidence. I mean, sorry, not indict. They managed to impeach Trump without any direct evidence. There's never been any direct evidence that, and 538 others admitted this. There's never been any direct evidence that Trump withheld military assistance. So here, you know what? There used to be an article, 538, direct evidence, Trump, impeachment. Here. It's right here. I used to always share this article because every once in a while, you'll get really good. It is possible. I mean, they admit right here, and they've always admitted, it is possible to this particular type of evidence that direct evidence that Trump ordered a quid pro quo might not exist. Well, it doesn't exist. They never found any direct evidence that Trump ordered a quid pro quo, but they impeached him anyway. And it's being written that Trump did order a quid pro quo. It's being written that it's almost like this is a part of history that Democrats managed to just fabricate as usual. They didn't. Okay, when you look at the Mueller probe, when you look at the Durham probe, and you have 3 people indicted already, and Radcliffe is saying that more people are going to be indicted, and Kash Patel is saying that more people are going to be indicted, and I, on the lowest part of the totem pole, the lowest, I've written a bunch about the Durham probe special counsel in the Federalist, and I speak about it a great deal, but I don't have the knowledge Radcliffe has, or Kash Patel, or others, or Tom Fitton. I can tell you that he's going to indict more people, and it's going to be directly correlated to how bad things get in terms of foreign policy, because Putin seems to have his man in the Oval Office. They said that about Trump. The truth is that whether it's President Xi of China or Putin of Russia, any competitors and adversaries on the world stage smell fear. They can feel weakness, and the weakness has nothing to do with military strength. The weakness has to do with rising inflation, oil prices. We'll get to oil. What did I tell you, ladies and gentlemen? Oil is at, we can get to, really quick. I'm all over the place, but there's so much. What did I tell you, people? It is going to get worse. I said this. Did I not say that crude oil and WTI, the oil prices are going to go past 147? We are seeing this. They are now about 18 points. They've gone up about $17 in about 3 days. Oil has gone up, ladies and gentlemen, $18 in about 3 days. Okay? And by the way, Eric has a fantastic channel. Go to his channel if you're into video games. He does a lot of great work. Eric does a lot of great work if you're into gaming and video games. He does a lot of fantastic work, and his channel is there. Luke St. Martin, thank you again. Gentlemen, Luke and Eric, I have to email you about some upcoming changes pertaining to certain things. But you're both the best. And the absolute best moderators and just best people. But anyway, so what did I tell you? This is directly related to the Durham probe special counsel. Look, everything that could possibly go wrong is going wrong. The fabricated hoax that Trump was installed by the Kremlin, or that the Kremlin wanted Trump, or that Moscow or Putin wanted Trump to be president, is not only completely absurd, not only a fabricated propaganda spin, but if you look at your eyes, okay? If you just believe what your eyes tell you, literally everything's going wrong. And we're heading into a recession. Kiev is about to be occupied. Kiev is about to be occupied, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? And This is exactly like President Obama. They took Crimea under President Obama's administration. Then Trump was elected, and then the only knock on Trump was Facebook ads and an assessment that Putin wanted Trump. They didn't even have enough evidence, and you can see here they didn't have. Do Democrats have enough evidence for impeachment? They didn't need evidence. They just wanted to impeach the man based on what a colonel and some other people believed. They didn't have any evidence. It's possible, too, that this direct evidence that Trump ordered a quid pro quo might not exist. It didn't exist. It could be that Trump truly didn't make the connection, or as Trump's foreign personal lawyer testified, it could be because Trump frequently spoke in code rather than giving direct orders. He didn't speak in code. Trump is pretty direct, and a code is easily broken down. They didn't have, and President Zelensky stated, President Zelensky stated right here, Zelensky, uh, this is all AP sources. Yeah, right. It's all right here. Ukraine President Zelensky said he didn't feel pressure by Trump. Here's why that's bogus. It's like, sorry, Business Insider. The man said he didn't feel pressure. Here's why that's bogus. And so justsecurity.org. Why does Ukraine Zelensky say he felt no pressure from Trump? The man, they couldn't believe, the liberal Democratic Party establishment couldn't believe that President Zelensky didn't feel any pressure. And the only articles that show that he felt pressure are sourced by anonymous sources. So nobody pushed me. Ukraine president denies Trump pressured him to investigate. So not only did I show you, ladies and gentlemen, that even 538 states there was no direct evidence Trump pressured Zelensky or withheld military assistance, but the president of Ukraine himself stated there was no pressure to force him to investigate Biden. Now here is the issue, and if you get kicked off the stream, log back on, because that happens a lot. Okay? They lied about everything. The more that people see that the absolute worst is taking place, they're about to capture the capital city. They're about to capture Ukraine's capital. And whether or not it happened as fast as Putin wanted, that's not the issue. The issue, ladies and gentlemen, is that it's happening under Biden's watch. The issue is that it's happening after years and years and years of intelligence operatives saying that Trump wanted Putin. The entire Trump-Russia myth is collapsing every single day with atrocities and with a catastrophe that's unfolding every single day. It was an absolute categorical myth. It never happened. Okay? Trump was never installed by the Kremlin. If anything, if you want to make the case that a president was installed by the Kremlin, or that a president is doing what Putin wants, or that what Moscow wants, look no further than President Mashed Potato Brains. Mashed Potato Brains said that the hearts and minds of the Iranian people will never be won over last night. We'll talk about that. I mean, we can look right here. So, video of Biden saying Iranian people rather than Ukrainian people. So, it's seen a million times. Kamala Harris appears to correct Joe Biden's Iranian speech. So here you can look. And Axios, same thing. Let's just see if we can get this. Okay, so let's just watch this really quickly. We can look. I mean, it's not rocket science to see that any adversary has exactly who they want. They have the man they want. Now watch Taiwan and China and Taiwan after this. And by the way, unfortunately, Putin is going to get that assurance because they're eventually going to negotiate. Eventually, Russia will leave Kiev and leave Ukraine, and they'll do so after they negotiate Ukraine never joining NATO, which is what could have been negotiated, which is what Trump would have negotiated, and which is what media would have said, oh my God, here we go, capitulation. Well, Trump would have negotiated a deal. Biden is presiding over a catastrophe. The Durham probe special counsel is going to indict more people because every day, here's what I'm trying to tell you, there's a philosophical or there's a component to this where the opposite of what they said would take place is taking place. Their entire argument was that Trump was installed by the Kremlin. The absolute opposite is true. We're now seeing utter catastrophe with mashed potato brains, and everyone sees what's going on. To my super chat, by the way, thank you. Check this out. Check this out. Let's see if we can. Let me know if you can hear this okay. Rand, hello. All right, let's see if you can hear this.
Choosing the side of peace and security. This is the real test. It's going to take time. So let us continue to draw inspiration from the iron will of the Ukrainian people. To our fellow Ukrainian Americans who forged the deep bond that connects our two nations, we stand with you. We stand with you. Putin may circle Kyiv with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people. He'll never extinguish their love of freedom. And he.
So, could you hear that all right, ladies and gentlemen? Could you hear that okay? Let me know if you can hear that. Echo. Okay. So, there's an echo. Was that okay? Was there an echo or could you hear that? All right. So, you could see Kamala Harris. Looking on and saying, "Okay. Yeah, that's nuts. Let's just try this again."
Clearly choosing the side of peace and security. This is the real test. It's going to take time. So let us continue to draw inspiration from the iron will of the Ukrainian people. To our fellow Ukrainian Americans who forged the deep bond that connects our two nations, we stand with you. We stand with you. Putin may circle Kyiv with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people. He'll never extinguish their love of freedom, and he will never weaken the resolve of the free world.
Well, the resolve of the free world that he's referring to didn't involve the hearts and minds of the Iranian people, and God bless the Iranian people. But he was referring to the Ukrainian people. You saw Kamala Harris correct him. He's not communicating even during the State of the Union. What do you think that shows? When Newsweek and other publications are reporting on this, and even Kamala Harris is kind of saying, okay, during the speech, yeah, that's not what we are. That's not. It's the Ukrainian people. Okay. This is, ladies and gentlemen. This is, and we're not even talking about I mean, there's a lot. I mean, you can go ahead here. I mean, you can go ahead and this one's hilarious. This one's absolutely hilarious. Hold on.
I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize true international effort to pressure.
True international pressure? What does that mean? What does any of this mean? We know we know what's going on. Media, the contempt that they had for Trump was so profound that they were just fine with somebody who was one fry short of a Happy Meal. He's one fry short of a Happy Meal. He's one beer short of a six-pack. He's not the sharpest tool in the shed. And he's leading the Western democracies in the free world. Not so free. The past, couple of months, Democrats have been trying desperately to silence and deplatform Joe Rogan. Okay, so they're not worried about freedoms. They're desperately trying to just continue to perpetuate only their view of foreign policy, only their view of domestic policy, only their view of morality. They're the ones who want complete control of what you think, what you hear, because any information could harm you. Meanwhile, under their watch, Kiev is being captured by Russia. Oil is going through the roof. We're heading into a recession. Everything they said would take place everything they said wouldn't take place is taking place under their watch. We can hear this again because that's even worse than the gaffe from the last night. This is bizarre. And we knew what we were getting.
I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize true international effort to pressure.
This has nothing to do with the speech impediment. He's just making words up. Who knows what he was trying to say? Okay? There's something else going on. It has nothing to do with a speech impediment or with stuttering or anything. It has nothing to do with that. He's not having a difficult time pronouncing words. He's having a difficult time communicating words. And because in his brain, something's going on. Who knows? But see, again, there is no equivalent. If Trump said Yosemite instead of Yosemite, he didn't confuse Ukraine and Iran. He didn't do this. He's not falling down steps. He's not walking aimlessly in front of the Oval Office. So, I mean, you got to ask yourself, do you think that America's adversaries are really frightened? J-Spot 51 starting it off. I have that clip, the hearts and souls of who? J-Spot for Cali Boy. Stuttering is called Jack Daniels. Well, actually, I think Cali Boy. I think that if he consumed some Jack Daniels, he'd be better off. I think that if he consumed some Jack Daniels, he'd be better off. At least in the short term, maybe not in the long term. Cali Boy, thank you. J-Spot 51, thank you. But we have a situation where former Director of National Intelligence expects Cali Boy 51, thank you so very much. Cali Boy, J-Spot 51, thank you. Thank you. You look at what's taking place, and it's a matter of time. Look, they set up and framed Trump with non-public internet data that they compiled through the help of tech executives, through the help of researchers. They use that non-public data, and Cali Boy, thank you so very much, as always. I hope all is well. I think the Jack Daniels, I honestly, let me tell you something. Mashed potato brains on Jack Daniels is probably better than Jake Sullivan and Bumbling Blinken sober. That's how bad they all are. He probably has a better grasp of foreign policy drunk. Cali Boy, thank you. Yvette Moore. Don't forget how dangerous our wildlife is. Stay away from Yvette. You know what? I am not messing with those great whites. Hold on, great white. Exactly. Look at that. I mean, do you want to mess with this? Does Putin want to mess with this in Australia? Look at this. Yes, Yvette. This is just, oh my God. Australian great white. Oh my God. Look at this. Does anyone want to mess with this? I'm not sure how, effective they are against subs, but I mean, if you could train a a brigade of great white sharks to protect against an amphibious assault, I don't know if, how good they'd be with the you definitely would want to get the vehicles to shore, closer to shore, but I'm joking about the team of great whites. But I mean, definitely, you don't mess with Australian wildlife, that's for sure. It's not to mention Australia. I mean, we can go. I mean, this is not. Oh my God, that is nuts. Giant spider in Australia will haunt your dreams. Could you imagine this? Could you imagine this? Could you imagine what you should do? What Australia should do is be like, take that, Putin. It's a gigantic spider. That is a gigantic spider. So, Herschel Ballard. Herschel Ballard, thank you. I don't know how we got Herschel Ballard. I don't know how we got into that gigantic spiders of Australia. But if they can develop a Sharknado, exactly, Sharknado. Oh my God. You just don't want to invade Australia. Or wildlife. Yvette, Cali Boy, Herschel Ballard, thank you as always, Herschel. So it's no joke. You definitely don't want. And then I mean, if these the Australian spiders are actually eating snakes. So I mean, I don't even want to go into it. This is nuts. Oh my God. Oh my God. Australian spiders, what travelers need to know. Don't travel. Don't travel to Australia, actually. Oh boy. All right. So anyway, yes. So Yvette, you're right. Herschel, Kelly Boy, thank you. So Doom Doomerson. So anyway, So anyway, Tammy, hello. So the opposite of what's the opposite, like you see what's taking place, and the worse things get. Kiev vows to fight as Russia troops close in on major cities. So here, I mean, this is the absolute worst possible thing that could be taking place. Russian forces Wednesday intensified wide-ranging offensive targeting a wide-ranging offensive targeting key Ukrainian cities, menacing the capital, Kiev. Within miles-long military convoy, launching strikes in the second-largest city, Kharkiv, and seizing a strategic Black Sea port city with tanks and troops. None your business! Thoughts on Texas primary, and what does turnout tell us about which way Texas is trending? See Texas going blue this decade? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the turnout's been better than recent years, but there's no way that Beto O'Rourke wins. So they a lot of people in blue states, none your business. A lot of people in blue states leave blue states for red states because they enjoy the freedom, they enjoy not being taxed up the wazoo, they enjoy the life that's in red states that more conservative people created. And of course, these wonderful blue state citizens take their flawed and warped and distorted politics with them. So they're leaving. You have people leaving, people who originated in Democratic run states, leaving, living in Texas, and taking their politics with them. So none your business. They've been spending a great deal of money, and the media they have an overwhelming advantage in media. I don't think that after this year, with us heading into a recession, with a stock market crash we're seeing, the 2 to 3,000 point drops that I've predicted will take place, unfortunately. Putin will have achieved his military objectives. We're going to see the Durham probe indicting a lot more people for setting up and framing Trump. I mean, media is going to have to look. None of the things that Beto O'Rourke once talked about, he's not talking about those things now because he knows they're not popular. He said he's going to take people's firearms. Now he says he's not going to take people's firearms. So, a lot of this is the overwhelming advantage people have in the overwhelming advantage Democrats have in Texas from media and from liberals who have fled, poorly run blue states and gone to Texas and kept their flawed ideology. None your business. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Thank you so very, very much. Thank you, none your business. Thank you. Um, so this is terrible. I mean, 15,000 are sheltering in Kiev subway. I mean, it's just terrible. You have a situation where there needs to be some negotiated peace settlement. There must be a negotiation. 15,000 are sheltering in Kiev subways. People sleep 3 or 4 to a mattress and plastic food bags while mothers search endlessly on their phones for news of the. Okay, so it's just here. I mean, this is all taking place under Biden. The space is surprisingly quiet, almost silent, despite 200 or so people camped there to escape artillery. They sleep 3 or 4 to a single mattress. The children push toy cars over the gray granite, watching their mother scroll endlessly on their phones, searching for news. Okay, so, I mean, you have a situation, ladies and gentlemen, where this is all taking place while Biden is president. At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, people are going to have, I mean, this is terrible. This is beautiful. They just delivered a baby, but look at the surroundings. These people are courageous, amazing, brave people. God bless the Ukrainian people. But it's like, this is happening under Biden's watch. It's happening under Biden's watch. Why is he allowing this to take place? And it's like, the way Democrats view Ukraine is the following: support, but with the understanding that they're battling Putin for us. The Ukraine shouldn't be battling anybody for us or anyone else. They should be like focused on. There should be peace in that country. We knew, and here's the thing. Here's the thing. This is where the Durham probe special counsel comes in. You're going to get the worst things get every single day. Less people believe the nonsense. Like, it is embarrassing now. Luke, Luke, I have to email you. Eric, I got to email you pertaining to some, I guess, new information that I obtained about moderators for the channel. So, but you're both amazing. Luke, you are absolutely amazing. Eric, you're absolutely amazing. And I can't thank you both enough for just being so amazing. But I will email you tonight. So, Luke, look out for an email from me and Eric. And thank you so much, both of you. But every day that goes by, okay, we're seeing oil prices through the roof, inflation through the roof, economic data showing we're about to contract. Okay, things are going to get worse in terms of the economy, a lot worse. They haven't even stopped the quantitative easing. So they haven't even stopped the quantitative easing. That hasn't really, the taper hasn't officially begun. Or actually, it's begun, but the QE hasn't officially stopped. So oil is through the roof. It's about to hit 120. It's about to hit 120. And we're seeing Ukraine suffering, and it's because of Democrats. It's because it's not. You could say the way media portrays it, it's only Putin and Russia, which it is. They're the ones invading. Yes, that's horrible. But we put Ukraine in a geopolitical we pushed them into a geopolitical nightmare. Okay, there was this we were kind of wrestling control in terms of influence. We're trying to wrestle control away from. We're trying to utilize them and influence them to one day join NATO, knowing that Russia would invade. I still haven't heard why it's so important, why it was so important for Biden to ignore President Zelensky's request. So here, not only did President Zelensky state that nobody pushed me regarding Trump pressuring him to investigate Biden's son, and nobody pushed him to do that. That was the most absurd thing. I mean, what Democrats do is they create these fantasies, and then they say that Trump believes in lies. It's like they're the ones who perpetuate the greatest lies. But here, it's right here. It's right here. Ukraine Zelensky presses Biden on NATO membership. He pressed for a firm commitment on NATO membership from the U.S., but got little encouragement. It's right there. It's right there. This is where the Durham probe, okay, you might say, well, what does that have to do with this? What does that have to do? Because every single day that goes by, every horrible development, Ukraine, Kiev taken over by Russia, Kiev being captured and occupied by Putin and Russian forces. That's taking place under Biden, not Trump. That did not happen under Trump. If you utilize the Steele dossier and the Alpha Bank nonsense and Brennan and Clapper and Comey and Strzok and McCabe's, greatest concerns regarding Trump and Putin, all of that relates to Biden. All of that relates to Democrats. It was the most grandiose, epic example of projection in American political history. They were the ones who were weak. They were the ones who would preside over catastrophe, over allowing Putin or allowing Russia to get away with implementing their foreign policy objectives without any repercussions. You can say, oh, well, there's all these repercussions. Like, they haven't stopped. So at the end of the day, you can sanction them, but you're really not going to prevent them from achieving their military objectives. You're not going to prevent them from achieving their geopolitical objectives. The objectives they didn't obtain under Trump, the reason is because Trump would have negotiated a deal. And here's why it would never have taken place under Trump. He would have negotiated a deal because he doesn't care about Ukraine joining NATO. Trump never cared. JG, hello. JG, hello. I just think that the Durham Probe Special Counsel is tied to what happens, it's tied to what takes place, and what we can see taking place in front of us. You're going to get now. Imagine, ladies and gentlemen, imagine when you look at Trump, and you look at what President Trump was able to accomplish, the Abraham Accords, the Doha Agreement, which Biden completely botched, which he didn't bring up. He didn't bring that up. Biden didn't bring that up. Those 13 Americans should be alive today. Those over 100 Afghans should be alive today. Trump was the first president to step foot in North Korea. These are things that are grandiose accomplishments that really people on the left, they're liberal warhawks, warmongers. They're the liberal intelligentsia, the people who would disown their friends because of political differences. These people are ideologues. They're ideologues. And they'll believe anything. And all Durham has to do is continue indicting people, which he will, peeling every single layer from this never-ending attempt, this story that is like, there are so many examples of people within the United States government working with journalists, working with paid operatives of the Clinton and Democratic Party, with the Clinton campaign and Democratic Party, to set up and frame Trump. And when they set up and framed Trump, the projection was unbelievable. They were setting up and framing Trump to make it seem to deceive the entire country into thinking that Trump would act exactly the way Biden is acting. That's the point. That's the point, ladies and gentlemen. That is the point. So you're going to see you're going to see more and more people here. You can just look, okay? You can just look at Clinton campaign, DNC helped fund research. It's only a matter of time before the law firm, before numerous other people within that law firm, numerous other attorneys are indicted. That's not rocket science. That is not rocket science. Because Sussman very likely will flip and sing on everyone else who purchased. And then and the thing is, they're caught up in. See, Democrats, what they do, they're so petulant. They're like, oh, he wasn't spying. He wasn't spying. Of course they were spying on Trump. The indictment explains all the surveillance that was going on. The indictment explains all the surveillance that was going on. But they want like a handwritten memo from Madam Secretary. Oh, yes, I paid people to spy on Trump. The issue is that illegal activity took place. 18 U.S. Code 371. I wrote about this in the Federalist. You just type in H.A. Goodman Federalist. James Clapper knew there was no evidence of Trump-Russia collusion in 2016. John Durham needs to investigate why info generating the Mueller probe is all linked to Hillary Clinton. But here, Comey and McCabe which should be charged with conspiring to defraud Americans. And the statute is right here, 18 U.S. Code 371. Now, they're actually trying to use that against Trump because somehow, some way in January, he in some way instigated the horrible tragedies that took place. But of course, Ted Cruz grilled an official at the Bureau who would not say categorically how many agents or employees or paid operatives were there. So they can't really indict Trump at all for anything. You see that prosecutors in New York are actually resigning. They're resigning. Why? Well, because Trump knows a little bit more about real estate than they do. So 18 U.S. Code 371 is what Durham could use at any point in time. And it won't be difficult if all Sussman has to do is say, yeah, they knew exactly what they were doing. If Michael Sussman, defending himself, says, yeah, Baker, the top FBI legal counsel, knew exactly what he was doing. And if Baker says, well, I was acting on, I was acting at the behest or, because my superior, James Comey, or other superiors were interested in this or believe this could be true, we know there was no direct evidence. We also know that the information was purchased by Clinton. We also know that Sussman is going to defend himself. So he was the attorney that was paid by the Clinton campaign and who allegedly lied to the FBI general counsel about why he was giving information about Trump. 18 U.S. Code 371 says if any, we can read the statute right here. If they conspired to defraud the United States or any agency in any manner or for any purpose, if they're accepting bogus information because they have a political dislike or contempt of Trump, I mean, you can use that against Peter Strzok. I mean, it's right there. Simply saying that we felt Trump was a national security problem. You can't say that anymore because Kiev is now being captured under Biden's administration. Ukraine was not being invaded under Trump. Oil prices are through the roof. Now, you can't say that Putin wanted Trump when Putin is doing exactly what he wanted under Biden. So all of these people, like the opposite took place. Their greatest fears are being witnessed while Biden is president. By the way, we have 550, almost 600 people on this live stream. If you get kicked off, please log back on. And to my super chat, thank you so very much, everybody. I can't do these without you. But I wrote about this in the Federalist. And this I wrote in 2019. Comey and McCabe should be charged with conspiring to defraud Americans. It's a very broad statute. If they knew that they didn't have direct evidence, and they went after Trump anyway, and you have, these small, like the Michael Sussman, the Danchenko indictment, those two indictments could be used to eventually, possibly, or probably, or almost certainly indict Comey or McCabe or Strzok or Clapper or Brennan, because they all knew that Trump was innocent. You can't investigate somebody in government based on a hunch, based on an assessment by corrupt operatives in the intelligence community. Literally anybody at any point in time could be investigated because their ideas or their viewpoints don't coincide with either the prevailing mentality or the mentality or the views of intel officials. But you can have, there's something called the First Amendment. You can have, it's funny too, because Strzok's defense was, well, I had my own viewpoints, but they didn't influence my investigation. But he doesn't give Trump that benefit of the doubt. He says, well, those views correlated with Putin. That's the whole thing, ladies and gentlemen. That is the whole thing. They said that Trump didn't revere NATO enough. So they said that Trump's foreign policy didn't promote European unity or, harmed European unity. So, well, European unity should have nothing to do with U.S. foreign policy. That's for Europe. If they're not unified and they have different interests, that's a problem with the European Union, not the United States of America. So, 18 U.S. Code 371. Durham can indict a great many people under that, because if you continue to find, if they're utilizing bogus opposition research, and they're starting, you can use that for the Comey memos. Imagine if James Comey is indicted after Kiev is captured by Russia under President Biden's administration, under Democrats. The whole reason for the Mueller probe special counsel was because Comey wrote memos where he was trying to insinuate that Trump was fired him because Trump didn't want the truth to be known about his possible connections with Russia, in which there were no connections that were meaningful in any way. There was no effort to install Trump. There was never any concerted effort. Manafort giving polling data to people. That had nothing to do with Trump winning. Not one Facebook ad ever swung anyone's vote. Not one Facebook ad ever swung anyone's vote. And these people knew. At the end of the day, Comey and Strzok and McCabe and Clapper and Brennan and Kleinsmith and Sussman and Baker, who's not indicted, and the tech executive who's not indicted, and the Georgia Tech people who are not indicted, those people knew that they were fabricating evidence. It wasn't even evidence. They were fabricating a pretext. And they were bombastic hello. They were fabricating a pretext. And you're going to get an impeachment of Biden immediately. I mean, immediately. It could be from Comey's. It could be it could be from Hunter's emails. It could be a whole bunch of things. The Afghanistan withdrawal. It could be what's taking place in Ukraine right now. His inability to stop inflation, or, oil prices going through the roof because of his policies. But no, mainly it could be him lying about his involvement in Hunter's business schemes. There's a reason that he forced out a prosecutor. And it wasn't just because he was trying to help Ukraine. Okay, if it's a sovereign country, you don't force out a prosecutor. Nobody forced out Mueller. But see, again, you can use U.S. Code 371 against McCabe and Clapper because they knew that there was no information that linked Trump to Putin, but they still investigated him anyway. And you have Peter Strzok saying, we'll stop Trump from becoming president. I mean, it's right there. It's not difficult. And Strzok and Comey and Clapper and Brennan, they were never on the witness stand. They always hid behind, it's an ongoing investigation. Whenever they were confronted with hard questions, they hid behind ongoing investigation, sources and methods. They're not going to be able to do that. And I wrote, FBI officials leaking information for political purposes while using a dossier purchased by Clinton should never have been the hallmark of a 2-year investigation into a duly elected president. Now that endless probes have resulted in zero evidence of Trump colluded with Putin to hack the DNC or purchase Facebook ads, Americans need the truth about the origins of the Mueller probe. Without Trump declassifying further documents, the public record alone is enough to charge Comey, Strzok, McCabe, and others under existing statutes for conducting sprawling investigations and utilizing government agencies purely for political outcomes. So the longer the Durham probe goes, the worse it is for everybody who tried to set up and frame Trump. He's going to indict more people. And you can see, I was watching an interview with Gary Kasparov, the chess champion, who is doesn't like Trump at all, but gives a free pass to President Obama and to Biden. I mean, here you have a chess champion, right? Grandmaster, chess champion. Okay. And it's you could type in, he doesn't like Trump. Okay. Don't tell me Trump will never do I've seen this he will do anything to keep power. Okay, so again, he didn't like Trump. All right, but everything, the worst fears of everyone who opposed Putin are all taking place right now. Ukraine is not being invaded, wasn't being invaded under Trump, who was said to have been installed by the Kremlin, which of course was a complete lie and hoax perpetuated by operatives. Crimea wasn't taken under Trump's tenure. Crimea wasn't taken under Trump's tenure. That was under President Obama. Ukraine wasn't invaded while Trump was president. That's under Biden. Kiev wasn't captured, and there weren't Russian troops occupying Kiev, which is what's going to take place. That's under Biden. Trump didn't force out a prosecutor because his son, Eric Trump, or Donald Trump Jr., was working for Burisma. That was Joe Biden. So all of these things, the worst fears of what Trump could have done, are all or what Trump would have allowed take place because he was so friendly with Putin, are now taking place while Trump's adversaries, the same people who disparaged him with these lies, all of these things are taking place under Biden's watch, and Crimea was taken under under President Obama's watch. Nothing happened militarily or in terms of geopolitics while Trump was president. I mean, you could say there was still a war in eastern Ukraine. Yes, okay, but nothing like the country wasn't overrun or invaded. So how was Trump like? Just because he criticized NATO, so what? The whole reason this is taking place is because of the issue of NATO membership. That's why this is taking place. Trump would have negotiated a deal to ensure Ukraine doesn't join NATO, and then, anti-Trump pundits would have said, "Oh my God, he's embracing Putin's rear end." Meanwhile, those same pundits aren't even critiquing Biden while all of this is taking place. It's only going to get worse. And the longer this goes, the worse this gets, and it's going to get worse. I mean, we have Russia elevating its nuclear capabilities, its nuclear readiness. I mean, everything's getting worse, not better. It's like it's going to be exponentially more embarrassing to state that Trump was installed by the Kremlin after Russia unfortunately takes over Kiev, while Democrats are in the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And you have, like I said, like I told everybody this. I told everyone this, ladies and gentlemen. I told everybody this, that this would take place. You have Brent Crude at 116. People, 147 is the all-time high. Do you understand, ladies and gentlemen? $147 is the all-time high. It's going to go past 147 easily. It's about to hit 125. It's about to hit 125. And there's an oilprices.com article talking about once it hits 125, once it hits 125, we're pretty much going to head into a recession. Now, if you look, you can just look at the GDP Now estimate. Let's see. We have 0% growth. And he was at negative percent growth the other day for the first quarter. It was at 0% growth. So, do you think that Putin installed Biden or Trump? We had 2% inflation, record low unemployment. We had first president to step foot in North Korea. On the world stage, Trump was disliked by liberals, but he was actually admired greatly by conservatives of every country. Media, of course, painted an entirely different picture. Tell me how Biden wasn't installed by the Kremlin. If you're going to accuse a political candidate of being installed by a rival superpower, explain how Biden wasn't installed. What, simply because Clapper and Brennan and a Senate panel didn't confirm a Senate panel didn't confirm an assessment that stated with high to moderate confidence that Trump was installed? I don't think that anyone was installed by anybody. But utilizing the hysteria and paranoia and apoplectic hysterical coverage, there was more hysteria and condemnation of Trump's Helsinki conference than with Putin than actually Kiev being overrun by Russia. Like, the morally superior liberals who believed Clapper and Brennan, after it was proven that they made up everything, are less indignant. They're less worried now that Russia has invaded, and nobody has stopped them militarily aside from the brave men and women of Ukraine. But I mean, at a certain point, they're going up against an overwhelming military power. So Ukraine is doing an amazing job slowing down the advance. But at the end of the day, time is on Russia's side. Who do you think is really? I mean, if you were of that mindset, if you were of the mindset of Clapper and Brennan and Comey and Strzok and McCabe, who do you think's the president that's really being, you know, a puppet of another country? You think it's Trump, who presided over 2% inflation, oil prices that are far lower than what they are now, Ukraine not being invaded? Like, there was no invasion of Ukraine under Trump. It's happening under Biden. And he's not stopping it. Nobody's stopping it militarily. And all of the sanctions, at the end of the day, end up hurting Western countries also. And we have inflation going through the roof, and we have a stock market crash that is pretty much in slow motion. We'll see a collapse, unfortunately, in the stock market. And it'll almost certainly take place before November. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? With all of this taking place right now, we're entering. Listen to this. Who is the? If Russia wanted to install a president, why would they have installed Trump, who leveled serious tariffs at China, which is exactly what steel CEOs and major corporations in the U.S. wanted, to help us on the competitive global landscape deal with, things that they're doing, like just, dumping steel, or price manipulation, intellectual property theft. So, presiding over record low Black and Latino unemployment, record low unemployment, engaging in a serious economic confrontation with through tariffs, which is a short-term negotiating strategy. And Trump did negotiate new economic terms with China, and they haven't abided by those terms. Now we have record trade deficits, record budget deficits, and our standing in the world has plummeted under Biden. So who do you think Putin would want? He certainly wouldn't want Trump, who presided over a fantastic economy and actually gave lethal aid to Ukraine, which President Obama didn't. President Obama, like I said, Crimea was taken over under President Obama's watch. Luke, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that, Luke. So, I mean, it's like the the propaganda for the past 5-6 years was Trump was installed by the Kremlin, yet everything bad that could possibly take place is taking place under Biden. And we had a great economy under Trump, and in terms of foreign policy, it was a very good foreign policy. He didn't start any new military endeavor, which is the first president for a long time who didn't start a new military endeavor. And so it's like, I mean, the propaganda is so warped. Why would Putin want Trump? Because Trump didn't revere NATO? That actually helps the United States of America not to revere NATO. It actually helps the United States of America. That actually, like, reverence for any multinational or global alliance, or reverence for any organization that's not the United States of America hurts the United States of America. You don't want, like, the critique with Trump is that, oh, well, he didn't promote unity among our allies. Like, however our allies feel about each other or about NATO, that has nothing to do with the U.S. The U.S. runs NATO anyway. We're the most important country in NATO. We have the greatest military and the greatest economy. If we left NATO, it wouldn't be, France and the UK would then be the most important countries. And then they would have to actually step up. They wouldn't be able to afford the payments. That's what, like, Trump was saying, just pay more. And then, oh my God, it was like the end of the world. All Trump said, here's all that Trump said. This is why, like, they're being invaded right now. Ukraine is being invaded under Biden's watch, but they're giving Biden a free pass. So Trump, NATO. Trump wasn't going to withdraw the U.S. from NATO. So Rolling Stone always gets it wrong. It's like there's no difference between Rolling Stone and the New York Times and Mother Jones and BuzzFeed. It's like the same monolithic, public relations monstrosity. Trump repeats question of landing plane. Here. In gesture to Trump, U.S. allies close to deal to pay more for NATO running costs. So what was so bad? NATO allies now spend $50 billion more on defense than in 2016. How is that? President Trump, this is a very, very good thing, placed a significant emphasis on President Trump has placed a significant emphasis on the need for increased defense spending among NATO allies, and newest data suggests his efforts are paying off. In 2016, non-NATO members spent $262 billion on defense. In 2020, they will spend $313 billion. What is wrong with that? If they're spending $50 billion more, that's less money we have to spend. What on earth is wrong with that? Sharon Isaacson! Thank you, Sharon! To my super chat, thank you so much. I can't do this without you people. Sharon, thank you so very much. Thank you. Mikey, thank you. Sharon, thank you. To my super chat, thank you. I can't do this without you people. Thank you. What on earth is NATO? Why is that such a horrible thing that NATO spent $50 billion more? NATO allies spent $50 billion more on defense. Is that why Putin installed Trump? God forbid they pay more in defense. Big deal. What is the big deal? President Donald Trump has placed a significant emphasis on the need for increased defense spending among NATO allies, and the newest data suggests his efforts are paying off. In 2016, non-U.S. NATO members spent $262 billion on defense. In 2020, they will spend $313 billion. Regardless of whether this increase resulted from changing perceptions or Trump's laser-like focus on inadequate defense spending, the results speak for themselves. The $50 billion increase is equivalent to the entire defense budget of France. And we spend, what, $700 billion? And that is just 1 year. Since 2016, NATO General Secretary Stoltenberg noted European allies and Canada will have added $130 billion to their defense budgets. So how is that how is that a bad thing? And then, of course, you fact-check NATO remarks. He repeatedly made false claims to international audience about NATO summit. So they were always desperately trying to fact-check Trump. And at the end of the day, they're missing the point that he's trying to make, which was we're defending most of the vast majority of NATO members. Maybe they should step up their payments in NATO so we don't have to pay as much. What is wrong with that? Trump's NATO parade and falsehoods and misstatements. Statements. All Biden does is make false statements. All Biden does is confuse countries. All Biden does is preside over catastrophic foreign policy failures, like botching the Doha Agreement, completely botching our withdrawal, and presiding over Kiev now being captured by Russia, or about to be captured, or Russia invading Ukraine under Biden's watch. But all media did. Hey, Trump is lying. He's lying. Trump is lying. Trump is lying. Trump is lying. Oh my God, he's lying. It's like, at the end of the day, what is this reverence? Nobody can explain to me, like, this reverence for NATO. It was a NATO intervention that destroyed Libya. So that did not work out well. That did not work out well. Sharon, thank you. JG, thank you. U.S. will pay less. CMW! CMW, thank you! Thank you, CMW, thank you! CMW, thank you so very much. Greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated, CMW. I cannot do this without you, ladies and gentlemen. CMW, thank you so very much. CMW, I hope all is well. Thanks for being here. I appreciate that. I hope all is well, CMW. I hope all is well. Thank you. CMW, it's correct that we have now agreed on a new formula for sharing those costs. The U.S. will pay less. There you go. Germany will pay more. So now the U.S. and Germany will pay the same, roughly 16% of NATO's budget. For the U.S., the adjustment means that starting in 2021, it will be paying $150 million less for NATO's annual $2.5 billion maintenance. $150 million less. That's because of Trump. What is wrong with that? This is why Putin installed Trump? Because we could save money? We could save $150 million and have other countries increase their defense spending? The whole point of what is the point of NATO? It is a Cold War relic that was meant to combat the Warsaw Pact. There is no Warsaw Pact. Russia does not have territorial ambitions beyond Ukraine. They're not going to invade Romania or Poland. And Romania and Poland have very, very good militaries. Poland especially has a very good military. So does Romania. So the only thing NATO does is bring us closer to possible nuclear annihilation. See, the Article 5, this is like a cold, the alliance structure, the reverence of alliances, or the, you know, the World War I scenario could take place. Oh, well, Russia went after one of the Baltic countries, so we have to defend one of the Baltic countries. And so, China sided with Russia, and India perhaps, and sided with Russia. So, oh, well, you know what, France and the UK. It's like all of these things, this reverence for a Cold War relic could lead us into nuclear confrontation. We already saw nuclear confrontation. I predicted a nuclear confrontation taking place. CMW, thank you so very much. Always so kind of you. CMW, thank you. Thank you. Trump saved $150 million while at the same time making sure other countries. And so that's the thing. It's like they kept trying to paint him as this madman simply because he looked at things from the vantage point of somebody who wasn't a career politician. And whenever you get a critique of Trump now from people who once believed that Trump was installed by Putin, you get, well, regardless of what the investigations found, CMW, thank you so very, very much to my super chat. Thank you. I appreciate your support. Thank you. Regardless of what the investigations found, I just think that, Putin, he served Putin's interests. Well, what do you mean he served Putin's interest? Don't you think Biden serves Putin's interest? Don't you think that Biden is doing the Kremlin's bidding by sitting back and doing nothing about Ukraine being invaded? And don't say sanctions, because the sanctions are actually hurting. The sanctions are causing oil to go through the roof, which is going to obviously increase inflation. I don't know. There are people who are like positive. They say, oh, well, you know what? We'll get through this. The rebound. It's a good economic rebound. I'm like, what? How on earth is this a good economic rebound? How on earth is this a good economic rebound? This is a terror. We have 0%. I mean, what more do you need? How is Biden not installed by some other foreign power? I don't think he is, but let's utilize Clapper and Brennan and Comey and Strzok and McCabe and Mueller and the MSNBC and CNN's mindset. We have 0% growth this coming quarter. 0% growth, okay? 0% growth. And you have 0% growth. You have oil prices approaching record highs. Okay, you have Russia about to overrun Kiev. So the capital city in Ukraine is about to be overrun. And you have 15,000 people sheltering in the subway. I mean, it's terrible. U.S. officials fear the worst is yet to come. Okay, this is happening under Biden's watch. It's all taking place under Biden. And then you have, we won't even get into China and Ukraine. China and Taiwan. We won't even get into China and Taiwan. We won't even get into China and Taiwan. So we won't even get, and that is just, we won't even get into inflation. I mean, how anyone can say that life is better under Biden, I have no clue. Here's how President Biden wants to fight inflation. Let's hear this. Okay. Inflation in America is higher than it's been in nearly 40 years. To get inflation, the president called on companies to lower their costs and not their wages. I mean, this is like he's the man has never run a business in his life. He relies on maybe 10% from you know who. And look at how absurd this is how he's going to get inflation under control. Okay? This is unbelievable. To get inflation under control, Yvette! CMW, thank you, Yvette! There's all that, but which POTUS addressed? Yvette! Yes, Yvette! and like you said, Sharknado, you can't beat it. Yvette, thank you so very much, as always, for being so wonderful. CMW, thank you. Yvette and CMW, everybody here, I can't do this without you. To my super chat, thank you. To get inflation under control, President called on companies to lower their costs. What does that even mean? You think companies are going to lower their costs because Biden said to do so? This man is out to lunch. He asked the car and tech industry to bring their supply chains back home. Okay. Okay, instead of relying on foreign supply chains, let's make it in America. Well, considering the Democratic-run states have the highest tax rates, you have Elon Musk moving to Texas, but you have corporate. If you're going to raise corporate taxes, which is what Build Back Better initially did, which is why the National Association of Manufacturers said initially you would lose 1 million manufacturing jobs. Can you believe this? CMW, Yvette, everybody here, JG, Eric, everybody here, Luke. Could you believe this? How are you going to combat inflation? I mean, tell me how you're going to combat inflation. You're going to combat inflation by what? By doing what? By you're going to combat inflation by telling businesses to lower their costs and not their wages? That's not how commerce or capitalism or business is run. It doesn't work that way. You can't. That's why when Bernie Sanders, or that's why when AOC kicked Amazon out of New York, every Democrat from Cuomo to de Blasio, they were crying. They're like, no, because she was like, taxes. We're not getting enough in terms of taxes. It's like, well, you would have gotten, over 100,000 plus new jobs? My God. And so Amazon just left. And you didn't do anything good for New York. Democrat, and then when Bernie Sanders says, "Oh, you better do this," I think it was Walmart. Walmart just laid off people. Business is not going to be intimidated by Democratic politicians. They'll find if you say, "Well, you know what, we're helping workers." What major corporations do is that they'll say, "Okay, well, we will adapt by laying off workers or by cutting hours or by doing anything possible so where they don't have to spend more money." Inflation is due to, and I wrote about this in the Federalist, I called all of this. Inflation exists because they ended economic activity in 2 years ago. Democrats and media pushed to end economic activity. Okay? That's what happened. They pushed to end economic activity. Then they pumped, because they ended economic activity, which is, there's other ways to explain it, but then they pumped $10 trillion into the economy. One out of every $5 was essentially created out of thin air. And so imagine what happens if China blockades here. I mean, you could just look. Um, Taiwan says China can blockade of its harbors. I've been saying that for a long time. They don't even have to do anything. They don't have to invade Taiwan. And then you keep thinking that, well, Russia would be rational and China would be rational and they wouldn't invade because, at the end of the day, it would hurt them. And they wouldn't want to be harmed by sanctions or by global outcry. Well, China and Russia don't care. They really don't care. They see a, they see, um, they see weakness, and the weakness is not in terms of military strength, because Russia and China have nukes. The weakness they see is a president who has no vision. Okay, Biden, mashed potato brains, has no clue what the future will bring. He has no clue. He's like the anti-Nostradamus. He has no idea at all. Even a fellow Australian just told me an hour ago that he's a crazy man. That's what watching TV has done to people. Exactly. Well, there you go. I mean, Yvette, people at the end of the day only care about public relations. That's all that. That's why very few people watching news, very few people actually can actually point to decisions Biden made that led to this catastrophe, which is why if you're going to say that any politician was installed by the Kremlin, you couldn't get a better example than Biden. You couldn't get a better example than Biden. Ukraine is being invaded. The Doha Agreement was a completely botched withdrawal because of Biden not abiding by the May 1st, 2021 withdrawal date and utilizing the T-ban as security outside of the only airport he left open. The botched withdrawal showed the world that mashed potato brains was completely incompetent. Russia going into Ukraine and almost capturing Kiev is showing the world that mashed potato brains is more than just incompetent. We're no longer the superpower we once were. Now watch China. They don't even have... Look, Russia and China think of foreign policy. I don't know if this is apocryphal, but when Nixon went into first met Mao in China, he was the first president to step foot in China, and he began formal relations with China. I don't know who it was that he spoke to, or I don't know who. I don't know who it was. I don't know who it was that he. Hold on, let's see. Who was it? See, again, I don't know if this is apocryphal, but hold on one second. Hold on one second. Let me just see. It might have been Deng Xiaoping. I don't know, but it was one of the top leaders at the time was speaking to Nixon, and they were talking about, I forgot exactly what the story was, but they were talking about the French Revolution. And the question from the American diplomat was, well, what do you think the impact, what do you think the overall impact of the French Revolution was? And he said, well, it's too early to tell. So, well over 250 years prior, the way that China's political establishment and Russia's political establishment, the way they view things is through, the lens of hundreds of years, not not the way we view things. Like Democrats they can only see the next, contest. That's why they impeached Trump, because the mere notion that anyone would investigate Biden, the mere notion that Trump would ask anyone to investigate Biden, which, by the way, he didn't. It was an ellipsis that they're completely hysterical as always, apoplectic. They made it all up. That's why they literally had no direct evidence. And they have no direct evidence. But see, Taiwan can blockade China. I mean, it's right there. I don't know. Sorry. China can blockade Taiwan. That's what I meant. Could China blockade Taiwan into submission? Okay. Taiwan and the U.S. also face the risk from China that. Okay, so Lord. Taiwan and the U.S. also face risk of China blockading Taiwan. I mean, they could do so right now. They could do so if they wanted to. Yes. Zuma, that's right, JG. That's right. Too early to say. That's right. That's what I meant. So, here, National Interest is actually a really good publication. Um, this is interesting. Could communist China blockade Taiwan, which the mainland portrays as a wayward province? Sure. And the PLA would doubtless do so should Xi Jinping opt to settle the cross-Taiwan Strait stalemate by force. At the same time, it's doubtful that PLA commanders would make a naval blockade their main effort to subdue the islanders. They would undertake a blockade as an adjunct to more decisive measures such as cross-strait amphibious offensive. Well, why would they have to do that? Oh, look. Our two favorite leaders. Barf. Why would they have to do that? They could just blockade and wait. The PLA could deploy a blockade to stretch and thin out Taiwan's defenders around the island perimeter. And I don't want this to take place, but this is what's taking place. This is what would be taking, they couldn't do this while experiencing Trump's tariffs. See, we're at a weakened, the primary leverage we have over Russia or China is economic leverage. If not directly against them, as a show of influence and prestige to everyone we would try to countries around the world when we try to when we try to get people on our side. That's why you have initially people didn't really want to sanction Russia. Now they are, but see, Europe and the U.S. are kicking Russia out of SWIFT, which is now hurting the EU and the US. It's like the opposite is taking place. Where sanctioning Russia eventually hurts our economies. And the reason our economy or the stock market hasn't completely collapsed is because we're still pumping money into it. And so and so Unaided naval pressure can only work by a process of exhaustion, whose effects are both gradual vis-a-vis its target and galling both to our own commercial community and to neutrals. Well, okay, but see, they don't care. I mean, the interesting thing is, like, there's also this inability to see things through the perspective of Russia or China. It's like this complete inability to um, they want their primary Russia's primary national security interest pertaining to Ukraine is ensuring that it never join NATO. China's national security interest is ensuring that Taiwan becomes part of China, or they always viewed it as part of. They don't view it as. We don't have normal diplomat. We don't even have normal diplomatic relations with Taiwan, even though we have diplomatic relations. It's not the same as the relationship we have with other countries because of China. Here we go. Here we go. Trump said he believes China may invade. God, man, are you serious? China believes. So Trump says, here we go. Right here. Trump believes China may invade Taiwan sooner rather than later. I mean, if that happens, that will almost certainly happen. I've been predicting that. Who do you think was installed by Putin now? All of these things are taking place under mashed potato brains. All of these things are taking place under mashed potato brains. So it's like you can't say that a foreign government installed Trump, yet every possible horrible thing is taking place under Biden. And when you say that, when Trump says, yeah, they wouldn't have invaded Ukraine under my watch, they didn't. He doesn't really have to go out on a limb there. They didn't. He doesn't have to go out on a limb. They didn't invade Ukraine under his watch. It literally did not happen. It just simply did not happen. It didn't happen under his watch. Okay? It didn't happen under his watch. This is ramping up. I mean, they smell weakness. It's not weakness. It's not military weakness. That's not the weakness that Russia and China, can see. They know that they know that when Trump was in office, he had a specific foreign policy vision. The foreign policy vision was he wanted to put American national interests first and foremost. He didn't care about NATO, or he didn't really care about the EU. He didn't revere any sacred cows in foreign policy, and he said, we're just going to level tariffs at China if they steal intellectual property, and if they dump steel, and if they manipulate prices, and we'll level some serious tariffs. Oh my God, it's a price war. Oh my God, it's, nobody wins from, protectionist policies. Nobody, oh my God, Trump is a tyrant. Then he said, look, NATO, pay more money. I don't want to spend, we can at least save 130 million, which is what took place. The U.S. saved 130 million and forced other countries, Germany and others, to pay more. So, oh my God, he's doing Putin's interest. Oh no, he's doing Putin's interest. He's doing Putin's interest. Oh, he's being installed by Putin. Okay. We had record low unemployment. We had record low Black and Latino unemployment. We had hundreds of thousands of new manufacturing jobs. With the first president stepped foot in North Korea. Before that, oh my God, Kim Jong-un, we're heading towards a nuclear annihilation because of Trump. Oh my God, because of Trump. Well, that didn't work out for Democrats and for the naysayers. It worked out for the country. Okay? And Greg Gibson, thank you, Greg. Thank you, Greg. Thank you for joining. And then, I mean, every single thing he did, he had a vision. He wanted to make Trump wanted to make the country more prosperous, which he did. He wanted to ensure that geopolitical rivals didn't achieve their objectives economically or militarily. And he focused on the economic issues first and foremost. That's why when he told Germany in 2018, hey, you're a captive of Russian oil and gas, he was right. And of course, they laughed at him because they didn't want to hear that they could not accept anything from Trump. They couldn't accept any relevant, accurate criticism from Trump. So he was right. They impeached Trump because they said that he withheld military assistance. But Democrats aren't impeaching Biden as Ukraine is being literally invaded by Russia. Which is worse, being invaded or allegedly denying military assistance to investigate Biden, who's obviously corrupt and he'll be impeached numerous times? So, you have a situation, people, where you have a situation where public relations overshadowed actual foreign policy accomplishments. Now the reverse is true. Biden is presiding over absolute catastrophe. It's a nightmare in terms of everything that could possibly go wrong is going wrong. It's only going to get worse. Now, China, they see Russia. What is NATO doing militarily? Nothing. What is NATO doing militarily? We can't do anything militarily. We kicked them out of SWIFT, and a bunch of oligarchs are being sanctioned. So they don't care. They don't care what is being done. Okay, Russia does not care about economic sanctions because they see those as short-term, and they've already prepared for those economic sanctions. They don't care. They're going to achieve their political objective through military means. That is exactly what China is going to do. And the reason they're doing this under Biden is because Democrats and media pushed to end the U.S. economy for about a year and a half because of you-know-what. Never finding out why you-know-what took place or how it took place. Now we have oil prices it's at 116, people. Do you realize that when it hits 120, 130, 140, 150, it will reach an all-time high? That is my prediction. And I will have unfortunately been right yet again. It is only going to get worse. What do you think, ladies and gentlemen, in the chat, if we have 0% GDP, if we have 0% estimate of GDP, and oil at 147 or oil at 125, and I hope that we can get negotiations here. U.S. officials fear the worst is yet to come for Kiev. Where's the emphasis on negotiations? Where's the emphasis on negotiations? We know what the negotiations are going to be. Give us a firm commitment, some kind of commitment that is a guarantee of some sort that you will never join NATO. And now Russia has the leverage. This should have taken place. We should have ensured that Ukraine didn't go through all of this simply because we wanted to battle Russia. We should have ensured that Ukraine didn't go through all of this. Why didn't we ensure that? If there's some kind look, if there's some kind of thank God, hopefully, or God willing, there's a ceasefire. Russia leaves Ukraine. When that happens, Putin will have achieved, because they're not going to leave unless they get a guarantee that the Ukraine won't join NATO. Then watch how media, the duplicitous, disingenuous media, turns on President Zelensky in Ukraine. Definitely don't believe that the morally superior liberals who thought that Trump was installed by the Kremlin and who believed Clinton would win in a landslide and who are on the wrong side of history when it comes to a whole bunch of things, don't believe that they're not going to turn on President Zelensky or they're not going to turn on Ukraine if President Zelensky makes a firm commitment never to join NATO, which is the only way Russia will leave Ukraine. Suddenly, you're not going to get you will see media turn slowly but surely. Just like when they didn't believe President Zelensky when he said that Trump never pressured him. But see, what happens to the price of oil? If Russia leaves Ukraine, the price of oil could probably either stay, maybe go down a little bit, or go back up, because now you have China, China's looking and saying, okay. See, a lot of people are saying that China is not going to invade Taiwan or blockade Taiwan because Russia had a tougher than expected time. Look, God bless the people of Ukraine. They've done an unbelievable job standing up to Putin, but they're against overwhelming odds. It's David versus Goliath. And the West, NATO, US, is not doing anything militarily. When you send weaponry to Ukraine, Russia has exponentially a greater amount of whatever you send. So there has to be a negotiated deal. The only negotiated deal will ensure Putin's interests. That will tell China one thing. Go ahead, implement your foreign policy right now when Biden's president. Ensure that you can achieve your national security objectives when Biden is president. Because when you had Trump, he was leveling massive economic tariffs. We had a great economy. And he was the only one asking, well, where did what come from? Democrats, for some reason, definitely did not want to find out, which, oh, by the way, coincided with the interests of another country. So, what does that country have on Democrats? But see, again, the hysterical, apoplectic mentality is never utilized against Democrats. You could look at crude oil. Brent crude is at 116. It's at 116. It was at 98 2 days ago. It was at 98 2 days ago, people. Okay, it's not going to take much. It's not going to take much for it's not going to take much for oil prices to go well past 147. If we have zero growth now, think about it this way, people. If we have zero growth now, with oil prices at 116, okay? And by the way, the zero growth was when oil prices were at 98, okay? It went up $16 in about a day and a half. Okay? Sorry. It was in negative territory. If you look at the GDP now, GDP was in negative territory. Negative territory just the other day. Okay? GDP was in negative territory just the other day. Okay? And GDP was in negative territory, and oil was at around $98. Now it's at 0%, and oil is at $116. Now, God forbid, things get worse. God forbid, things get worse. Now, the Fed is already looking, they say, well, that's only with half of the quarter's data. Well, okay, what's getting better? Tell me what's getting better. It's only getting worse. Consumer sentiment is in the toilet. Inflation is through the roof. Oil prices are skyrocketing. Putin is about to get pretty much what he wants. And he doesn't really care about the economic sanctions because once he leaves, those sanctions will... And he hasn't even closed the tap on oil and gas to Europe or shut the tap, a little bit or decreased supplies. Nice. Hey, JG. Hey, you want to do push-ups, man? I mean, it's so... Even the people who accused Trump of being installed by the Kremlin are now actually embarrassed to bring that up. This is interesting. Oh, here. Europe's gas prices soar 60% to record highs. Buyers shun Russia. Okay, well, there you go. I mean, it's like... What is this? You have a situation where it's only going to get worse. And inflation. So here. I don't know how. Like, you have... This is actually... Okay, so hold on one second. Let's see. Impact of rising oil prices on U.S. inflation. Okay, so... This is interesting. Dallas Fed. Look at that for a second. Federal Reserve of Dallas. Okay, this is interesting. This is in 2021. Let's see. So this is like, it's at 116 now, and this was what happens if oil goes to $100. So hold on one second. Predictions of... Okay, so what is it? Predictions of oil prices. Okay, hold on. Predictions of oil prices reaching $100 a barrel during the winter of 2021-22 have raised the fears of persistently high inflation, and a $100 oil scenario would only briefly raise monetary headline inflation before fading rather quickly. However, the short-run effects on headline inflation will be sizable. All right, anyway. So let's look at crude oil prices. Macro trends. So look at that. So we have, let's see, the all-time high was 147. But it says right here in 08. This is one. Okay, so what am I looking at? Oh, WTI crude oil. Current price at March 1st is actually no, it's WTI is 114. So crude oil prices. It says here it hit 179, but then I've read that the all-time price is 147. Anyway, we'll get to 179 almost certainly. Okay. With Trump, check it out. With Trump, 2016, I mean, oil was at $56, $70 a barrel, $58 a barrel, and now it's 116. So at least Trump is not tweeting. That's the main thing. Wow. 116, 114. So that's right, JG, it's gone up. It's gone up. I mean, let's see, hold on. China invades Taiwan. It's like pretty much game over. So wait, all-time high for Brent crude. All right, Brent crude was 147, and West Texas Intermediate crude oil reached 147 in July of 2008. Okay. It's one day. Why do I not have a year here? Oh, hold on one second. 10 years. Hold on. So here, 140. So here you have 114. Oh, I know you're not seeing what I'm not showing everybody here. So crude oil, WTI crude, hit 147. Even imagine if Donald Trump had been left alone to do his job. Exactly. So I agree with you. Great point, Yvette. Great point. Great point. Imagine had he just been given any support. I mean, any support at all by media, we'd be in a much better place. Yvette, I agree with you completely. To my super chat, I can't do this without you people. Thank you. Thank you. Yvette, thank you so much. Yvette, thank you so much for all your support and for Patreon and everything. Thank you, Yvette. So kind of you. Now, Look at this. Look at this chart right here. President, okay, so we had Bush, Bush. We had Bush presiding over catastrophe at the end of his presidency, worst president of all time. Oh, and look at this. Oh my God. Look at this. Oh my God. Luke, Eric, Yvette, CMW. Oh my God. Look at these commodities. Crude oil, Brent, natural gas, gasoline, heating oil, gold, silver, copper, soybeans, wheat, coal, steel, iron ore, lumber. Oh my God. TradingEconomics.com is fantastic. It's all green, going up, up, up. Look at that. This is unbelievable. Maybe they're worried about the second round of negotiations if it doesn't work out. See, I don't know why there needs to be a negotiated deal. I mean, they're probably looking at China. They're probably looking at China, Taiwan. Do you blame China? I don't blame China. They're not, I mean, they're a lot smarter than mashed potato brains Biden. Xi Jinping and Putin are infinitely more interested in strategy and their own national interest and achieving their own national security objectives than the bumbling buffoons we have in the Oval Office and in the State Department and in the people who are the adults in the room. This didn't happen under Trump. And this did not happen under Trump. Look at this. I mean, have you seen anything like this? Eric, Luke, JG, Yvette, CMW, David, Nina, everybody here, Jason, Kevin, Teresa, have you seen anything like this? This is nuts. Let's see, hold on. Oh my God. Oh my God, this is nuts. Almost every single commodity is through the roof. This is a great site, my God. This is a fantastic site. TradingEconomics.com. Oilprices.com and TradingEconomics.com. Keep on watching. Go to oilprices.com and TradingEconomics.com. Great site. My God, look at this. This is what happens when this is called At Least Trump Is Not Tweeting. You can add the mushroom cloud on the other screen. CG3. Unfortunately, there was future in their fronting. Generally, there's no future in your fronting, but there was a lot of future in the Democrats' front. So there you go. This is like when you see like the working class. Bernard, why don't you look at the commodities instead of spewing your mishegas on Twitter and social media? Instead of being the yenta you are, Bernard, look at what you have perpetuated. Crude oil, Brent, natural gas, gasoline, heating oil, coal, ethanol, propane. I mean, you need the propane for all those fantastic barbecues. Uranium. Uranium's, you guys, all the uranium mines. Methanol, gold, silver, copper, steel, all up. Iron ore, lithium, lithium, platinum, soybeans up, wheat up, lumber up, cheese is up, cheese is up. Buy. Milk is up, rubber's down. Oh, believe me, it's not. Oh, look. I mean, there's one silver lining, rubber's down. This rubber's up. I can tell you that. Orange juice. I mean, you have canola, sugar, tea, oat, rice, cocoa, corn, all up. Everything's up. Aluminum, tin, zinc, cobalt is up. Well, there goes AOC's Green New Deal. Nickel, palladium, rhodium. I mean, all of these, my God, iron ore. Okay, so magnesium, beef up. Feeder cattle, live cattle up. Lean hogs. Lean hogs. My God. My God. This is terrible. There's something weird going on right now. Oh, that's right. Year over year. I don't even looked at that. Wow. Wow. So I mean, every single thing is this is an absolute catastrophe. But at least Trump isn't tweeting. The good thing is that at least Trump. This is called at least Trump isn't tweeting. Brent is now 117. Hello. Something's going on. This isn't normal. Something is going on. It doesn't take a rocket scientist and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see what's happening. Something's going on. Something is taking place. So this is very, very, very bizarre. This is very, 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 very bizarre. This is not a good omen. This is very bad. Very, very, very bad. This is very, very bad. You have every single commodity up through the roof. Let me just hear. Every commodity through the roof. I mean, could it be linked to the negotiations? I don't know. Something doesn't make sense. Like something doesn't make sense here. It's very, very, very bizarre. Very bizarre. Is it Kiev? Is it Russia in Kiev? I mean, Kiev about to be taken by Russia? I don't know. Because that's a catastrophe. That's a catastrophe. That's a nightmare in terms of geopolitics, but of course it's called, at least Trump isn't tweeting, so. And that's an absolute catastrophe. An absolute nightmare if that takes place. Ukraine forces sort of stave off 20 miles north of Kiev. So the U.S. intelligence predictions. By the way, they wanted to. President Zelensky wanted to stay, and they were preparing President Zelensky to leave. And he said, "No, I need more ammunition. I don't want to leave. I need ammunition." Stiffer than expected Ukrainian resistance and Russia's own logistical missteps have bogged down Russia's advance, U.S. and Western officials say, sparking a fragile optimism. But they're not stopping. The U.S. also grown continued share. The U.S. has also continued sharing downgraded intelligence. What does that mean? Downgraded intelligence of the Ukrainians, including about Russian military moves. It's like, well, we were wrong. Our intelligence was wrong about a lot of things. But anyway, from a purely military tactical standpoint, Russia has the manpower and fire. Exactly. So, and no matter how much resistance the Ukrainians put, so God bless the people of Ukraine. There needs to be. So maybe commodity traders are looking and saying, okay, well, they're going to take Kiev. Maybe that's the issue. They're going to take Kiev. I mean, this is a catastrophe. This is an absolute catastrophe. I don't know. I don't know why this is like doomsday scenario here. You have to see G3 pretty much until mashed potato brains until Trump, hopefully saves us in 2 years from now. But you look, and it's pretty much the worst thing you could ever imagine. This is pretty much the worst. It's pretty much I mean, look at it again. I mean, this is unbelievable. I mean, how many times this is actually world history here. I don't believe, although I'm not an expert on commodities, I don't believe that you could see a commodities chart like this ever. I don't think that you could ever see this year over year. Look at the year over year. Coal 357% year over year. 357% increase in coal. There goes the Green New Deal. 357% increase. Crude oil, 79%. Brent, 75%. Natural gas, 77%. Gasoline, 72%. Heating oil, 95%. Coal, 357%. Ethanol, 39%. Okay. Look at this. This is unbelievable here. TTF gas, 1,000%. UK gas, 944% increase. Lithium, 585% increase. Okay? Goldie Irish, hello. Almost certainly more people at that law firm. Almost certainly. But we're looking now at this is all linked to the Durham probe special counsel. You say, oh, yeah, here we go again. It is. The more this takes place, ladies and gentlemen, the sky is falling and Biden's the president. So every single day, we see more and more, terrible economic news, geopolitical news. People they'll begin to question the narrative. Exactly, JG, exactly. The propaganda spin was Trump was installed by the Kremlin. Really, it had to have been Biden. Because look what's taking place. Commodities through the roof, inflation through the roof, and Ukraine being invaded and Kiev being captured almost certainly within the next couple of days. Maybe that's what they're fearing. And here we go. Concerns about Putin's state of mind. They always go and he's not his military objective is or political objective is pretty clear. He wants a negotiated settlement to guarantee that Ukraine never joins NATO. Why we couldn't negotiate that prior to this absolute calamity and catastrophe, I don't know. um, this is also hurting the global economy. You can't sanction Russia without hurting the global economy. So it's this is that's actually a good article from CNN, one of the few good articles, but it's still, you're not really giving the overall picture. And the really terrible thing is that NATO and the US were watching this, but they're not doing anything militarily because we can't. Which brings us back to the initial question of why didn't we negotiate some kind of deal with Putin prior to all of this? Which brings us back also to Trump being prescient and possessing a great deal more wisdom than most of the foreign policy analysts in the liberal foreign policy establishment. the idealists um, are not like all of these lofty ideals. Oh, one day Ukraine can join. Um, they had no intention of allowing Ukraine to join. They had no intention at all. They had no intention. So, like, why? The question is, why did we? Why did we? Why did we allow this to take place? They have this flawed idealist foreign policy that has led to this. Look, I mean, this is unbelievable. This is a catastrophe and it's like all the far left and the socialists and the communists and the democratic socialists and Bernie Sanders supporters. I used to be the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. I used to be the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. Thank God I left that cult, because it's really the left, liberal Democrats, left-leaning ideologues. It's a cult. This is actually a good thing to them. If you look, they're like, well, at least Trump is not tweeting. This hurts working people. This is actually, when you're watching the green here, poverty and wealth inequality is increasing. Inflation is going to increase. and every time you, I mean, you can look, my God, it's unbelievable. Look at all of this. And the only time, like, if it's down, that's interesting. The price of poultry is down. That's bizarre. Like coffee, cotton, but they're up 74%, 40% year over. Everything is up astronomically year over year. Astronomically. I mean, this is really bad. This is really bad. And it's only going to get worse. By the way, fantastic website. This is a fantastic website. When I was on the left and I was a morally superior progressive or liberal Democrat or whatever, it's the same thing. They all vote They all vote blue no matter who. There's no difference at all. I never looked at commodity prices. Bernie Sanders doesn't look at commodity price. He doesn't care. He doesn't look at oil prices. He doesn't care. AOC doesn't either. They don't care. They care about judging, and they care. Like, you think Pelosi or Biden cares about any of this? They're rich. They're wealthy. They're connected, and it's like they are far removed from. Like, they have Jimmy Kimmel and the Washington Post and the New York Times and MSNBC and CNN and Stephen Colbert and all of Hollywood Twitter, social media algorithms. They have a public relations monstrosity that's, by the way, slowly, slowly jettisoning, slowly moving away from the Democratic Party. Slowly, slowly, slowly. We are actually seeing right now history. This is history, ladies and gentlemen. It's not. It's a terrible moment in history. It's a terrible moment. It's a terrible moment. We're witnessing history right now. This is a terrible, terrible moment in history. But you look and it's interesting. What about Dow? Yeah, it's like The stock market is this is basically a casino now that is about to implode. They're just trying desperately to make as possible prior to the whole thing collapsing. There's no the future should be like, you know, should completely collapse. But whatever, it doesn't matter. As my oh Lord. Serious. As my computer freezes. Did the live stream freeze? Yes or no? Okay, good, good. It's working. All right, hold on one second. Okay. Um, I agree. It will definitely get worse. I agree. I mean, both sides, left, right, Democrat, Republican, they have they're two sides of the same coin in many respects. Especially the people who want no fly zone. I mean, could you imagine this? This is like unbelievable. Like the idiocy. It's like who's going to who is going you can't have a no fly zone when you have Russian jets. That's what like Madam Secretary wanted in Syria. Like it's like who's going to enforce the no fly zone and you're going to have World War III. So and The Economist, what is a no fly zone? You would have I understand why Zelensky would want that, but you can't have that with nuclear powers. That would actually cause a nuclear war. So I like President Zelensky a great deal, and he told the world. He told the world that Trump did not pressure um, that Trump did not pressure him. I think that you look, ladies and gentlemen, to my super chat. Thank you so very much. Will probably end very soon, but we've had a pretty good live stream. Director of National Intelligence Ratcliffe expects more indictment in Durham's Russia probe case. That's going to happen. You look at GDP I mean, GDP is at zero. GDP is at zero. Commodities through the roof. Oil and Brent, crude oil, Brent, natural gas, gasoline, heating oil, all through the roof. Coal is up 357%. Exactly, JG, exactly. Exactly. Goldie Irish, I agree. I agree. And you look at like if this was taking place under Trump, it would be nonstop. Putin got exactly who he wanted. Why didn't Putin get exactly who he wanted in Biden? It's taking place under Biden's watch. I don't get that. I don't get that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much. To my super chat, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. This has been a fantastic live stream. Hit subscribe to this channel. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel. I'll have a live stream on the Stock Market Crash channel tomorrow. Thanks, everybody, for a really, really wonderful live stream. Eric and Luke, JG, Yvette, CMW, everybody here, thank you. And thank you so much, everybody. God bless. I will see you all tomorrow.